Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Today, we are wanting to discuss the hearings that we just watched today. We watched Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh in the Senate Judiciary Committee hearings. And Thomas, you've had maybe an hour or so to digest it. I have already got emails, texts from people. They want to know, they want you to weigh in on it. So what do you think?
Well, the reason that don't have to meet with the conclave on this one is because we already said what was going to happen. We predicted everything that happened exactly. We even predicted that, yes, this will be the place where every Democrat will stick their neck out on the chopping block and put it all on the line. So you got to see Cory Booker basically say goodbye to his political career and trying to be president. You got to see Kamala Harris say goodbye to hers. And you got to see the Dianne Feinstein freak show move from the Senate Intelligence Committee, where she created the Russian dossier, which again she held a copy of to the end and never showed anybody because it was a secret, is I think what she would probably say. She couldn't let out the secret, but she left the Senate Intelligence Committee after revealing in an unprecedented and certainly unethical way the behind closed doors testimony of Glenn Simpson, her friend, who was part and parcel of her entire plan. Which, just to underscore what we have said before, they started the Christopher Steele dossier in February of 2016, linked to all the Comey 28 treasonous acts. Dianne Feinstein knew about it from the beginning, so she moves over to the Judiciary Committee to focus there and dumps it on Mark Warner because why? She knows that she's completely complicit with that crime. That was an October surprise. A 12th hour surprise that is never supposed to really come to light. It's never supposed to come to the light of day.
No, it's never supposed to come to a conclusion either.
Or a conclusion. The dossier, the Russian dossier, still, look, after all this time, and we know that it's part of a coup d'etat, no one's reading it, no one's looking at it, and it's still not even being considered for what it is, which is a creation of John McCain and Dianne Feinstein, working with Hillary, John Podesta, Obama, and weaponizing the entire Obama administration. Well, that's what just happened with Kavanaugh. Now, what we said, and we're going to underscore this, I still stand in the conclave that I can't get them to agree with me unanimously, so I have to tell you it's my personal opinion. But I say he will not get confirmed and that Trump chose him for that exact reason. I say that Gorsuch only got in because of the surprise murder of Judge Scalia. And yes, it was a murder. So that really took people by surprise. This one, there was no surprise. And the next one, there's no surprise. And that's the reason that during the hearings today, one of the senators, the Republican senator, held up the URL site of the new resistance for the next
it's a threat.
Person that is being recommended. They assume that Kavanaugh is going to be gone, and they're setting up the next attack and setting up the next website to attack whoever it is that Trump nominates next.
What we're seeing here is we're seeing the absolute front of the information war, because you could sit there and see all of these senators and know the crimes behind them. For example, when asked of Dianne Feinstein if anything from her office was leaked, she said, well, no. Well, this is a good question to ask Dianne Feinstein, since she had a Chinese spy working there for over 20 years and she didn't seem to notice. I mean, the audacity of these people to think that we don't see through their theater.
You're absolutely right, Betsy, and let's go further with what you were just talking about. When she was questioned about this, specifically by Grassley, the chairman, when he was asking the leader of the minority in that committee, how come she didn't turn this in? Well, I kept my confidentiality. I didn't let anyone know. So, and she tried to deny that she even knew that there were any meetings on hearings over these things, which they pointed out, the Republicans, that the Democrats only attended 2 of the meetings. And one of them was a representative of Dianne Feinstein. Would that be her Chinese chauffeur, who is her Chinese espionage handler? Or would it be the avid ISIS management control mechanism for all the mainstream media script that they're reading?
That Martha McCallum probably read to Brett Kavanaugh during that interview, because she was very aggressive with him.
Oh, absolutely. Those things were written by The Bunker.
Yeah, and so that's written by Avid. She reads it. She's a good actress, and she did her job. But Dianne Feinstein, not to mention, Daniel Jones also came from her office.
And we just found out that again, it was my speculation, it was not the conclave's proof, that George Soros was part of giving the $50 million to Daniel Jones, her Senate Intelligence Committee staffer, who resigned and opened his own company, Pin Quarter Group, which actually has other names. It has now been found out that what we told you, that it was George Soros along with Oleg Deripaska who gave a lot of that money, as well as the Hollywood people that were, a group of Hollywood people who had donated. But they tried to cover George Soros's donation, but we told you that it was George Soros point blank again. He needs to be investigated for tax evasion, and he needs to be put in jail. I'm done with George Soros, and the whole world should be done with George Soros. Everyone should go after George Soros. He hasn't paid any taxes. He's attacked every single country that he has had any economic dealings with. He has attacked them.
Especially our German listeners, and we know you guys are out there. And Angela Merkel and her involvement with Soros. Angela
Merkel is the political daughter of George Soros. Remember, you have 28 non-elected people running the European Union. 26 of them are known to be in the pocket of George Soros. George Soros just changed the entire migrant policy in a matter of weeks. So this commitment to the migrants, all of a sudden George Soros changes his opinion, boom. So you got to realize how powerful he is, and we have to stop him. We really do, because it's completely out of hand. But Dianne Feinstein, when asked by Grassley, very specifically, if you and your staff and the congressperson that supposedly Dr. Blasey Ford gave the letter to, who said she kept in confidentiality, didn't even share it with her own staff, when she was asked, how was it that it was leaked wholesale to the press? You got to see Hillary Clinton, Dianne Feinstein, Nancy Pelosi two-step. It's just amazing the way they never answer a question. But they always point in a different direction, but they never, ever, ever answer the question. So she was asked again and again, and then what did she say? Well, I was told that she had told it to friends, and then he said, but, Dianne, I'm not stupid, Grassley is basically indicating, saying to her, but the letter was only written recently. That doesn't explain that. So Dianne is turning to her staff and asking them questions, acting like she's so old she doesn't know what's going on, trying to blame it on them, just as Rat Rodenstein blamed it on his staff when he signed the fourth FISA court warrant without reading it. And he said, and he justified he didn't need to read it because he has a staff that does it for him. He just signed it. So Dianne Feinstein turns and Grassley corners her because Ted Cruz had ripped her apart, as well as 4 or 5 other senators who had said she had this, 60 days ahead of this fiasco and brings it out at the 11th hour and then refuses to give it to anybody. But then it gets leaked to the press and it turns it into a pylon, what I would call a wolf pack of Democrats who are, in fact, mob ruled. You got to see the mob rule today, and I'll explain why the mob ruled today in just a minute with the Democrats. But the point is, you got to see the mob rule, and you got to see some, as we pointed out, would happen. Republicans show who they are. The true MAGA people, the true people with any morality showed it on the Republican side in this Senate.
Well, I saw a lot of acting going on.
Well, we're going to get to the acting.
We'll get that, because
the acting was really
like
pretty
Lindsey
good.
Graham, his acting was superb. But remember, he's in there right now to look like a hero, but he is on a short chain, folks, and when they're ready to yank it, they will. Okay, I'm sorry.
We got to come back to Lindsey in a second.
I know we will.
Okay, so what we're seeing there, of course, is ad hominem. It's attacking somebody with names by calling them names with no substance. And so the reality is, all those hours of questioning and not one single fact, not one single corroboration of what Dr. Ford was saying. And we can go into an analysis of Dr. Ford, which people will probably enjoy what I have to say about her, because I will simply rip her to pieces and everything that she said. I didn't want to watch it today, but when I came in and I saw exactly happening what I predicted would happen, which is everyone's going to treat this as what we call meeting their own doppelganger or meeting the threshold. So they're going to look on Kavanaugh because he sways both ways. He's a soy boy. And I'm going to tell you also how that happened, that he was appointed. Because it was one time that we said, oh my gosh, Trump is not telling the truth. We can tell by looking at him. And that was when he came out to announce Kavanaugh and when he said such great things about Kavanaugh. And then we told you then what was really going on, and it basically is what's going on, and you can see it happening so beautifully. So when I started seeing what you were showing there on the screen of the senators and Democrats and Republicans in this Judiciary Committee going back and forth, showing who they are, absolutely who they are. And as you say, some of the Republicans going way overboard with their acting, and the Democrats being so vicious, desperate. The ones who need money for their campaign, for their presidential campaign, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, they were supposed to be the sharpshooters. They showed themselves to be unsharp, and they didn't hit the target. And the other lawyers, who were the Democrats in the room who were questioning, showed themselves to be lawyers. Take out the AU in lawyer, and it spells liar.
Oh, you already used that before.
I don't care. I'm going to keep using it.
I think Brett Kavanaugh doesn't understand that the question that he was asked about military tribunals is what's got the swamp all in a stir. You know, that's what the questioning is about.
Come on now. I don't want to go back to Lindsey Graham. Dianne Feinstein, when asked by Grassley, well, I don't understand. Are you saying the congressperson she gave it to leaked it? No. Are you saying leaked it? You can't say her friends leaked it because it wasn't written then. So you saying your staff didn't leak it? Well, of course they didn't leak it. Did you ask them? Just a second, I'll ask him. She turns around and in a hearing where everybody can hear what they're saying, she says, did you guys leak that? What was she expecting them to say? Yes, I committed a felony crime that I'm going to go to jail for at least 5 to 10 years. Yes, sure, Dianne. Yeah, I leaked it. Over here. Yeah, we leaked it. The three of us leaked it. That's how insane that woman is. That she acts with such impunity that she cannot be prosecuted for her crimes, that the crimes she committed today and not the obstruction of justice, this was the manipulation of truth, because there is no way that anyone in their right mind could believe that the CIA professor who works at Stanford sometimes as a CIA, oh my Lord, she's out there as the psychologist who tests for people who will be good in the CIA at Stanford. This is who she is. Do you understand that the reason she couldn't testify was not only for stalling, but because, as you can see, they had to wipe her mind with MK Ultra wiping techniques before they could get her to be a feminine woman who could act like she had been abused.
Well, no, she was trying to project that she was a little 15-year-old,
speaking a little baby voice.
Her hair bangs were kind of in her face, and her glasses were a little bit too big.
Hiding behind her hair.
Oh my gosh, it was such a pathetic
with the glasses
job.
And not showing what her own people say, that she was a whore at that time. She was so drunk for those years of her life, she cannot remember what year this happened. But wait. 36 years of sheer misery. No other event has ever risen up to create the post-traumatic stress that this happened with her, with Brett Kavanaugh. She can't remember the year it happened in, the time, and the people that she clearly knows were there say it didn't happen.
Because this is not about that. It's about making sure that this procedure does not go to the full Senate for a vote. Because the senators don't want to vote on this. It will show what team they're on.
That's what we said. We said that we didn't believe that the dog and pony show would get outside of this committee and get to a vote. We believed that when he put Kavanaugh there, that it was because he had made an agreement with Judge Kennedy on the way out. And Judge Kennedy chose his successor, Brett Kavanaugh. Now, when that happened, poor Trump knew that whoever is going to come up at this time, before a midterm, these are when the political speeches come out. These are the soapbox speeches. These are when they get out and basically state what their political planks are, accusing the other side of how bad they are because of the partisan attitudes concerning the Supreme Court. Nothing could be more rigged than the Supreme Court. It's a disgusting, disgraceful institute because of the politicalization of the people who were put in there. They're not put in there because they are unbiased, because they are partisan, and that they sit and argue this to the point that they will create this political assassination of Brett Kavanaugh is just beautiful, because he's one of them. He's a Democrat. Oh, he's also a Republican. Oh, he's also SOS. Oh, his wife is also SOS.
Don't say that too fast. They're both senior executive service operatives, and I say that their handlers had to, throw them in as casualties.
His wife is his handler. Anyone would know that by just looking at them, who knows that he is a soy boy. Trump felt bad he was going to have to throw poor Brett Kavanaugh under the bus. But the more superlative Trump is about someone, especially like this, it is not characteristic. It is not characteristic that he would allow this to happen, knowing full well, because he's a genius, just like we knew exactly what would happen. We even named who would do what. Okay? It's very clear. Look at Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz came out with one of his presidential speeches where he didn't ask any questions. He just gave a presidential speech, and that was his participation. And he basically called out Dianne Feinstein, who no one would call out by name hardly at all, just the senior chairman, or the chairman of the minority. They wouldn't call her by name. He called her by name. And I said, oh, a war is about to start. And then the war started, and Grassley got into a war with Feinstein, which showed you that you cannot stop the obstructionism and the resistance of what we call the SES static bureaucracy. It's going to be the status quo, folks, no matter how you cut the pie. In the Supreme Court, they know exactly what that Supreme Court justice is going to vote in every single vote for the rest of their life. And that justice can be determined to be so partisan and so biased, they should be taken out and justice should be served unto them for treason. They should step down if they're going to be biased. They are not there to write law, which that is what the Supreme Court has been doing for years. They are there to interpret law. The Congress is supposed to create law, but they won't even create a law for immigration. They won't even create a law for the border. They won't create a law to stop bad trade deals. They won't stop Obama.
They won't even pass Kate Steinle's law.
Yes.
These people are anti-American. Now, we have a solution, folks, and that is you need to get off your butt and go vote for these midterms, and we need to make this one freaking huge red tsunami.
If it's not, as Trump said, you are voting for him. You're not voting for your candidates. He has done the best he can do for you in the primaries to basically flush them out. And what is he doing now? He chose Brett Kavanaugh to flush them out. Both the Democrats to show the socialists and the fascists hiding in the Democratic Party, and then to show the mechanism which I promised you I'd address. Cory Booker and Kamala Harris need money for their presidential run so that they can build up their coffers. Don't think for a minute that when 14 people run in a field that they think they're going to win. It's to build up their coffers for their next election, which they are then allowed to use for whatever election they have. So that's why they run for president, so that they can get the money from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is crooked. And now we know that not only every one of Hillary's emails, 780,000 of them, a courtesy copy was sent to the Chinese, but the Chinese have infiltrated the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and every other element in Washington, D.C. There are stingrays picking up even black phones, decoded phones, the dark web, whatever you want. We are being totally surveilled by China and by Israel. And if you don't know that, then you're naive. Dianne Feinstein is China's representative along with Mitch McConnell. And she, for 20 years, has had a Chinese chauffeur who's been doing her business. He actually shows up for her and represents her as a non-elected person representing Dianne Feinstein, because she didn't have time to go to all the meetings to construct the kind of evil that she just constructed with this October surprise in reverse. But in this, it was just inside that Judiciary Committee that she brought out at the last minute the fake letter, just like the Russian fake dossier. That was her. She was part of that. I can name all those, which I have many times, but this is what it's about now. And what did they do? Here's what they did. They simply went to their files, which Hillary controls with her keys.
That's it, because we've got to get down to why they want to throw all this over to the FBI.
Why?
Because Hillary controls, she has the encryption keys over to the FBI, and I've asked Michael McKibben to get on tomorrow and talk to you at length about that.
Hillary was planned to be the queen of the world, and she was going to basically try to take over for the Queen of England. Good luck on that, Hillary. Anyway, the point is that Hillary... What did she do? She demanded an FBI investigation, right? Well, there already was one currently going on, multiple ones. He went through 6 of them so far in his life, and this 6th one was the most thorough of all, and it involved the Senate Judiciary Committee, which is the most thorough vetting that you can have if it's for the Supreme Court. There's no higher vetting, no higher military, no higher nothing. So he had already been vetted. There was already an investigation. Why would Hillary want to send over there? I'm going to repeat this for you. If you haven't heard this before, you might want to sit down. Christopher Wray testified he has all 33,000 of Hillary's missing emails that she tried to destroy, which she never tried to destroy. That was used to set up the Trump team. He has them in 2 different forms, 6 CDs and 1 jump drive. And they were in his office when Comey was fired and he replaced him, as well as the non-destroyed lawyers of Hillary Clinton. So Hillary's BlackBerries and 3 laptops, Huma's laptop, and the laptop used by Debbie Wasserman Schultz are all, he admitted, in his office, and they were there when he went there. We said that was true. And we told him, you better look around for a secret room where all these are hidden.
Wait a minute. You got a lot of he's running around. This is
Christopher Wray. We told Christopher Wray, when you're moving into the FBI headquarters, which...
But Christopher Wray is Senior Executive Service. Of course he knows where all this is.
Well, he didn't know how bad it was until... That's why he had to testify the truth in front of Congress, because otherwise they'd put him in jail. But none of the Congress people, because they are a dog and pony show. They're not after justice, and they have very little power. They can't stop the FBI. Remember what Rat Rodenstein did to Devin Nunes's House Intelligence Committee intelligence staffers? He threatened all of them repeatedly. He said he was going to go after all of them if they demanded that he actually give them the documents that they wanted and that Nunes wanted. So he went after the little people and he threatened them. That's who Rat Rodenstein is. Now, we're not going to go there yet. We're going to stay back here with Dianne Feinstein. So what is really happening here? Trump knew that he doesn't care. He knows it's not going to go to impeachment. The Dems think they're doing this so that they can win an impeachment vote because they think they're going to win the House and the Senate in this midterm election. That's complete insanity. Now, and there's lies, and the polls are all lying, but even the polls that lie say that the Republicans are up 4 points, first time in history.
I don't care if you think we're going to flat out lose every election. You better get out of your chair and go vote, because it matters that each of us cares enough to go.
And take some other MAGA people with you, because believe you me, there's going to be a lot of buses with a lot of illegal aliens going into Massachusetts to vote over again.
We have a solution for that. You get go ahead and go to the print shop and get a black shirt or white shirt, and in the opposite color letters, put ICE, just ICE. Don't put police ICE, but ICE, and stand in front of the poll area and see how many illegal alien buses show up then.
I love that suggestion, Betsy. It's just like when you made the flag for us to all rally around.
That's right.
It's just beautiful. It's like the memes and the video memes that you and your team are making. They're rallying points, and we need to have that. And we need to remember that this is no joke, and that there is a chance that if they rig the election, but we believe that we've brought so much attention to these rigged elections that they laughed the other day when they asked, when Trump made a remark in that, what do they call it, the marathon press conference he had. I think he said to Mattis some question about, do you think we're going to let him interfere in the election this time? And Mattis laughed one of those laughs like, I will kill them if they do. Don't worry, Mr. President.
Okay, so back to the hearings.
Yes. So what you have there is the corruption of the Democrats shown in all of its true evil. You have every one of those people coming out saying, I need the money that is controlled through the Democratic leadership. And if I don't jump on board and attack Brett Kavanaugh in every legalistic lawyer language that I can to try to put words in his mouth and just say that, I'm sorry, I assume you're guilty because you're guilty, and because, by the way, are you still beating your wife? I mean, they were dealing with a lawyer, so they had a little trouble with him. But as we pointed out, he is a soy boy. He is weak. He has had some horrible things happen to him, obviously, in his early youth. And that is still with him now. Just look at the way he carries himself. But look at the way that Dr. Ford carried herself. She carried herself as a completely MK Ultra cleared mind. She basically, well, I'm not going to get into defaming how all that works, but the point is that they had to clear her mind, and then they had to imprint her. So what they did was, she must have been one of two things.
What is the likelihood? I want people to think about this. That Brett Kavanaugh, as a young man, was hanging around in the same circles where Christine was, and they all kind of wind up in this Washington space along with the CIA and senior executive service. What's going on with the parents of these people, or the communities that they are getting together in?
Well, it used to be, and it's not this way anymore, but if you went to Georgetown Prep, you're going to work in D.C. in a very high position, period, done. Why? Because you're getting your Catholic indoctrination all the way through all of the training in high school, and then the girls in the girls' school around that group all knew that they're slated for high political positions, and so now it happens that those girls are in those high political positions. And so you get somebody like this Dr. Ford, and what you really get there is a wannabe. Okay, she teaches at a smaller university. She wants to be important. Hillary found her, and the reason Hillary wants it to go to an FBI investigation is just as you say. She has the keys. She can get through the back door. She can take out documents. She can drop in documents. Notice the things that are cropping up now all over the place. Only one person can control that. That would be the person who controls the internet and or the mainstream media. That would be Hillary Clinton, who controls the internet, and Dianne Feinstein, who controls the mainstream media, through, of course, all of its filters with Valerie Jarrett, Eric Holder, Obama in their bunker. And make no mistake about it, they scrub the news, they create the news, they write the very words that are being spoken to you on all the channels at the same time with the same inflection. And literally, if they're told, if you tune in at the end of tonight's news, they're going to all stand up. It'll be two women and a man usually, or whatever. There's got to be a woman and a man in there, and they're going to stand up to make their last points to you. Mark my words. I don't even have to turn on the news, because that's the way Hitler did it. That's the way Obama did it. That's the way anybody trained, like a Joe Biden, when they speak, it doesn't, a Hillary, when they speak, a Bill Clinton, doesn't matter what they say. It matters the way they say it and what they use as their reference to endorse their authoritarianism. And
so
it's
that
disgusting.
Circles back to Lindsey Graham and his grandstanding.
Now, Lindsey Graham asked the most principal question of the entire time, and you pointed that out, Betsy, and that it probably came from Huma Abedin, who delivered it from the evil one herself, Hillary Clinton, the Hildebeest. And that question was, what about military tribunals for domestic war actors working with foreign governments meddling in an election? And Kavanaugh says, "Oh yeah, I can kill them.
Yeah, execution.
Yeah, we kill them. We murder them. Yeah, we hang them. We shoot them. Whatever." Now I'm exaggerating with that, but
he did say,
he said
yes,
there's two ways to go after them, and he basically said, and you know this, Lindsey, because you're quoting to me the very things that have to do with some of the most obscure laws, and also with the new executive order written by Donald Trump, which changed many of those laws, expanded them, and allowed that. And what they call a war actor, now you do not have to be in the military to meet a military tribunal. If you're a war actor, they just arrest you and take you to Gitmo and try you there. And that's the reason Gitmo isn't closed down.
Oh, and they don't leak it to the New York Times. So for all we know, that's what happened to John McCain.
Well, you know,
we don't know. That wasn't an open casket funeral. And there have been no pictures of him in the hospital. I kept asking for proof of life. They showed me no proof of life, and they certainly didn't show me proof of death. That's why you have an open casket funeral.
There's probably one way that could happen, and that's if it was an absolute national security issue and his crime was so profound that when the U.S. Marshals arrested him, because he was ex-military, they simply tried him in a military tribunal. Yes, that is possible. But then it would be very hard to keep people like who even tend Gitmo, like the U.S. Coast Guard, or many people. I knew the guy who was second in charge at Gitmo. It's not easy. I mean, not hard to get information out of Gitmo about everybody who's there and why they're there and everything else.
But the point is, we don't know.
Well, he'd have to be locked up in this ground, in certain sacred military ground where they can hold their enemy combatants, and that's Gitmo. But anyway, that could happen. Now, going back, why did Lindsey Graham do the most beautiful speech of his entire life, saying that this, in his entire political career, this judiciary confirmation hearing of Kavanaugh was the worst politicalization and the most, basically, disgusting political thing he's ever seen in his whole life? I didn't know the man had that much fire in him at all.
He was acting.
It was all acting. But boy, was it good.
No, it
He's
was
going
not.
to use that.
Not good.
Ooh, for him? Oh, that was political. Oh, gold it was. And his question, no one understood his question to Kavanaugh except Dianne Feinstein and all the people in the Senate Intelligence Committee, the people we've named who are part of that conspiracy, and the people who are in the House Intelligence Committee, like Adam Schiff and Andre Carson, and the other people who brought in Imran Awan to be the IT person for the Intelligence Committee in the Congress, in the House. It's just amazing that the very people who accused Trump are the people who brought in Imran Awan. Isn't that amazing? But anyway, so it's a beautiful thing that we see here, because we get to see the inner mechanisms of the evil of the way they do things. You see, normally they would control it a little bit better, but it didn't get controlled. So Kavanaugh got to say that literally some of the people who came, who threw the fits, were paid literally millions of dollars to do that. And we know that George Soros groups paid them. We have pictures of them being paid. We have them being paid money before they went in. The very women who threw fits and had to be carried out, we have pictures of them receiving money. And then they interviewed those people.
Those were the other hearings, not the ones that we watched today.
No, the earlier on.
Yes.
The first day of the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings, it turned into a zoo, mob rule, animalism, fascism. I don't know what else to call it. And the Democrats showed themselves to be who they were. Let's remember Spartacus. Let's remember the fake Cory Booker threat. He was going to release secret documents. No. He was releasing documents that had already been released, but because he didn't come to meetings, he didn't know they'd been released. But he already knew that. So that was all a big fat lie. Also, remember, first time in history, 50 DOJ lawyers were assigned to this case to get more records on Brett Kavanaugh than any other Supreme Court nominee in history.
Hillary and Jeff Sessions and all the Uranium One buddies, including Robert Mueller, get a pass.
Imran Awan got one first-year lawyer from the DOJ to investigate him. Oh, and by the way, with the untold amounts of millions of dollars that we spent to pull together the records on Kavanaugh, did you notice not one Democrat read basically from any of his records practically? It's like they didn't do any research. Plus, they couldn't get the Obama records. Why? Because as we told you, Obama's not going to release his presidential records. That's the reason he's gone into a contentious presidential library fiasco in Chicago that goes on into new levels of stupidity every single day. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in terms of a presidential library, and it's a complete scam.
But
they couldn't get his records.
Yeah, well, it's a unique way to hide your records forever.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now, wrap it up. Tell us what we're going to see going forward.
Well, with the 10 rhinos, Republicans in name only, globalists, I add that because of you, Betsy, they're going to show who they are. Anybody who votes against this, who's a Republican, knowing that they need every vote, is basically a globalist. He's not even a Republican or a Democrat, or she, whoever they are.
They're not American. Well, they're
not
not
Americans.
pro-American.
No, because they know that if you vote on party lines only and you don't vote with your party, then you're not representing your party, and you don't get your U.S. Chamber of Commerce money, which means you have your own rat lines of money, which probably means you have offshore accounts and probably means you're getting money through illegal means from crooked lobbyists. I mean, everybody knows that, right? So if you don't vote with your party, you don't get the money. That's the way that works. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is not U.S., has nothing to do with commerce.
But the globalists, whether you're Republican or Democrats, are going to want to keep Kavanaugh. Well, first, they'd like to not leave the committee for a full vote. But even if there is a full vote, they don't want to see him on the Supreme Court.
They tried to bring him to his knees and make him beg President Trump to start an FBI investigation that would delay it so that he would not be seated in October. Here's the deal. It's the Dems think if they don't get anyone seated by October, which they won't now, either they vote immediately or it's not going to happen. And then they think that they can get a split division and maybe win a Supreme Court decision on impeachment because they're so insane that they think they're going to win the midterms and take over the House and the Senate. That's not going to happen, folks. They're not in contact with reality. And Betsy's right. If the 22, and by the way, all of you who wrote in and said, thank Thomas, he was right, sorry for ever doubting him, and tell the conclave shame on you, Thomas was right, there's at least 22 million recognized illegal aliens in America.
Oh, yes. Well, now here's the thing, though, Thomas. People have to hear any alt media person for a while to see if they're telling the truth consistently, and when they make a mistake, that they're there to correct it. So you got to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe only now do they realize you've been consistent in this for well over a year.
And I tell you that that's the confirmed amount and that it could be twice as much. And now Harvard and Yale have come out and said that I was correct. And sorry, Conclave.
Oh, did they say
the Conclave's at home.
Thomas Paine is correct in
they
their
said,
report?
They said that Mr. Pain in the ass of the globalists is correct. I get a little respect, when they talk about me at Harvard and Yale. So it's very simple how I arrive at these things. I go back to real documents that nobody seems to notice. Like, did anybody notice that Comey ran 2 FBI full-blown, multi-million, probably tens of millions of dollars investigation into Donald Trump and his dad before he was the nominee? Did anybody notice that? And did anybody notice the White Hats put it for 2 weeks out on their site so that you could read it? Did anybody go to WikiLeaks and look at the dossier that was already created by Hillary Clinton before December? The references go back to when? April of 2015? I told everybody this. That's when it started, when they looked at Donald Trump and they said, oh my gosh. Oh, no. He can win. Look, here our own 17 U.S. intelligence agencies warn us that a populist nationalist who goes against radical Islamic terrorism.
That was in the Paradigms of Progress report.
Yes, which anybody can read. Go to WikiLeaks.
Which we reported on over a year ago.
It told their whole plan. They were going to drop a bomb on Damascus and wipe out all the airstrips in Syria. They had the whole plan. Hillary Clinton had her plan. And it included NAFTA that united us with Canada, America, and Mexico. Why? Then the Queen gets her colonies back. The Queen was going to take over through Hillary, and Hillary thought she was going to win against the Queen. Oh my gosh. We were going to see the worst of history that maybe American history has ever seen. So what we see now is we get to see the example of what our system actually is, the way that it works. And what you notice is, why doesn't anybody turn around and say, you have Democrats, and they did say it, you have ruined the life of Dr. Kavanaugh, you've ruined the life of even Dr. Ford, the useful idiot who's a wannabe CIA agent who had her mind cleared and then reprogrammed and brainwashed so that it would look as though a person who is a predator was a victim, and she did not do a good job. Anybody who knows what they're talking about, and I can't wait for the analysis to come out, but I'll tell you what the analysis is going to tell you. Her gives and all of her gestures, those were fake. Those were brainwash gives. You just take a look at that. I'm a principal superintendent. I can tell when people lie. her gives were so pronounced that it's like they had a very bad candidate that they were working with. But what happened was Hillary just simply went out to the net, figured out who was vulnerable, used the leverage, and ruined those people's lives to do what? To try to stall so that they can still, at this moment, believe it or not, think they can redo the election and Hillary can still be our president. Honest to God, people, I'm sorry to have to tell you that. And that has really nothing to do with God. It has to do with the devil. But they actually believe that because they believe that they can invalidate the election. That's what George Soros has done more times than I can count.